It's all about prison rape, so let's see if the algorithm treats this well. People need to hear it. Please double tap support to get out. If you believe the Department of Justice should, enforce the law on prison rape, you're not going to like this. A leaked DOJ memo is basically telling people to start looking the other way on prison rape, specifically when the person most likely to be raped is trans or intersex, because that is not what the president wants. And they're doing it under a law literally called the Prison Rape Elimination Act, or PREA. You can't make this up. I'm Sean Southworth at Southworth PC. We represent federal employees and applicants. I've had various PREA cases before. I'm not giving legal advice, but I want to explain what's happening because I think it affects a lot of people, the people we lock up, and frankly says a lot about what our own government is willing to do in our names. Here's the short version. PREA was passed to reduce sexual abuse in prisons and jails. In 2012, DOJ added common sense rules at the BOP. They're going to screen for the risk. They're going to house vulnerable folks more safely. They're going to limit cross-gender strip and cavity searches. They're going to train staff not to bait or humiliate people. Well, now it's changed. A Trump executive order says trans protections have to go. And this memo tells PREA auditors, until we update the standards, ignore the parts of PREA that protect trans and intersex people. PREA is still the law. The rulemaking isn't done. Yet DOJ is telling its own people in writing to disregard the law for a certain group. Can we say lawsuits? And let's be clear about what that group is. Trans people, yes, but it's also intersex people, which are folks born with chromosomes, hormones, or anatomy that doesn't fit nearly into male or female. Yes, that happens. They're already facing staggering levels of violence behind bars. DOJ's own data shows trans prisoners experience sexual assault at more than 12 times the rate of other prisoners. Other surveys say over half have been sexually assaulted during their current sentence. And DOJ's solution is remove the guardrails? Even though they're 12 times more likely, that's just common sense, right? The memo targets rules that require facilities to consider whether someone is trans or intersex when assessing risk. It targets rules that let vulnerable prisoners shower separately so they're not open targets. It targets limits on cross-gender strip searches. It targets training that tells staff to treat these prisoners with basic dignity. And then we hear, well, this is about protecting women, or we're restoring common sense. Women? Do you want these protections to go away? Because the policies they're pushing actually seem to make it easier to strip a trans woman naked in front of men, easier to house her in units everyone knows are dangerous for her, and harder to track when abuse is motivated by hatred. Women, do you feel protected by this? It's cruelty dressed up as safety, and I don't care where you fall politically. If you believe in human dignity, this should bother you. It's 12 times more likely. This is just common sense stuff. And if you believe in limited government and rule of law, this should also really bother you because it's still the law and they're just trying to ignore the law. The only sliver of hope is these changes aren't final. There has to be a public comment process. Jurisdictions can choose to keep protections. Courts have already intervened on some of this, but none of that matters if you don't understand what's going on. If you're angry, that's not you being too sensitive. That's a healthy reaction to your government playing games with sexual violence because they're targeting people. I'll leave you with a few questions to wrestle with. If DOJ could tell its own auditors to ignore parts of a prison rape law for a group it doesn't like, what stops it from doing that to anyone else next? If you call yourself pro-family or pro-life, are you okay with a system that shrugs at rape as long as you don't relate to the victim? I mean, Sodom and Gomorrah, right? We should not encourage this. 12 times, it's common sense, give protections. And if staff are being pushed to violate PREA, what does that do to the integrity of the whole system? And if you work in and around these facilities, what are you being told right now? How does that line up with the law you're actually sworn to uphold? Please don't actually answer that. Or if you do, be very, very cautious and make sure it can't be traced back to you. Thank you, everybody, for your support. What do you think of all this? Please let us know. Take care and have a great day.